Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As usual, I am your host, sellssi. We're going to discuss something interesting. I'm sure you've heard the news, the back and forth between the sports ministry and the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. I'll be talking about it here with Delali, and we'll be looking at what the issue was. Everything has been clarified and explained now. The dust has settled. It's time to look at and ask some pertinent question. But as usual, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Click on that notification bell to get more updates. Delali, welcome to the channel.
So it's a pleasure to be around.
Yeah, so I'm sure you've seen the back and
Yeah,
forth
obviously I have.
between the sports. He was Delali. We are privileged to have a member of the head of volunteers. He was leading all the volunteers at the Africa Games and all.
But the purpose of this conversation, if you are not careful and you say that I worked on the African Games, people may assume that.
See that, yeah.
My statement may be biased. People may not take.
No problem.
So you know
no
me
problem.
on this channel.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
talk my mind.
Yeah. What was the issue? Just to brief people on what.
Okay,
the issue
so I
was,
think the sports minister went for the Public Accounts Committee, and then he was asked by Honorable Sam George that has Ghana paid or has the sports ministry paid all the broadcasters that worked at the African Games, especially the broadcasters. And he said that yes, they've paid them. And then the Honorable asked the sports minister how much they've paid, and then the sports minister said they've paid he's not sure of the money, but they've paid in excess of $3 million. And I think that's what got people angry. So after that,
3.6 million later we came
first
to
of all, the minister didn't go further to explain. He just made a statement that we paid 3.6 million to GBC. I was like, GBC would have ended this country and I'm on 3.6 million. Then people got angry because he didn't break it down well. And then the GBC, the director of GBC, because it was like, now the GBC has to come out and explain whether indeed they received such an amount of money. And then the director of GBC also came back out and said, we don't get, you see, if you listen to him, he said that
the benefits
GBC benefited $150,000.
$105,000.
Yes, sorry, $105,000 benefited. So I saw initially, I didn't listen to the interview.
Okay.
But I saw the quote cards and all that. So I was like, no, wait. I went to listen to the interview he did on radio, Unique FM. And he explained, if you listen to his interview on Unique FM, he tends to talk about the fact
benefits.
That it was a benefit, and also he hinted on GBC using third parties to do the production. So there he explained that one, when the ministry came to them to broadcast it, they told them that they don't have the capacity to broadcast such an event. So they have to bring in third parties. So the GBC were more like supervisors to the third parties. And the money they paid, the money they received, they paid it to the third parties. He should have explained that.
It's looking like an issue of very poor communication.
Yes, it's not an issue of very poor. That is it.
It's
basically clear communication. Because one, I think it started with the sports minister.
Yeah.
Two things. He could have been a politician and said, I don't have the figures on how much we are.
He was toying along those lines. If you listen carefully, he was toying along those lines. I don't have the specific figure, but
once
then
you
he was forced.
Because if you listen to what some George really, if you listen to some George,
he was inquiring because
people haven't been paid. So his problem was not even with the amount of money government has paid to the broadcasters. It was more of workers that have not been paid
and settled.
So the sports minister, he would have been a politician and just said, I don't have the specific amount. Or if you don't, it's not compulsory to have details on everything.
Because you are there without knowing what they want to ask
you.
So you can excuse yourself
to say, oh, this one.
Let me get more information.
Good. And then after that, the GBC man, because I understand that per my resources, he wrote a letter to the Public Accounts Committee. And in the letter he wrote to the Public Accounts Committee, he explained it. He explained that they used third parties. The contract was this amount of money. But in public, he didn't communicate that to the public. So I think after his interview, that's what got people.
And an official statement came in trying to explain things. And the sports ministry themselves also released a statement and explaining everything. But
and I think this morning, GBC has also released
a breakdown.
breakdown
So I
with all
think
the
this is
third
what you can
parties.
see on your screen right now. Request for approval of contract invoices
Exactly.
for
Exactly.
13th African Games. Following the appointment of GBC as the official broadcaster of the 13th All African Games, I hereby submit contracts and invoices with GBC that GBC has to commit and sign up for the delivery of specialized broadcasting services. So they didn't have the
No,
resources.
they didn't.
So they had
them.
to
Yes, they told
outsource it. The list of services provided in the corresponding sums, PGS was 2 million euros, over
Yes.
2 million euros. Quality media
Productions
was 1 million. And I think if we stop there, it accounts for the monies we were thinking about.
Exactly.
USD.
No, if you see, if you do the calculation there,
it will amount to
like,
that
yeah,
money. So
yeah.
positive communication, GBC's 24-hour channel support,
Silicon
which was the
Productions.
$105,000
That
used.
GBC
So
got.
Silicon Productions got $165,000 because GBC cannot do those productions
Hey,
by
but be serious,
themselves.
oh.
Be serious.
Because you know, the Silicon is a Ghanaian company.
Yeah, it is.
So GBC, they don't know if it.
Yeah, and this is what we were discussing before we got on set here. I would think that with the games, the All Africa Games being a mini Olympics because it's for the African Olympics, why weren't other companies made to bid for the rights? Because if we look at the Premier League, DSTV bids, NBC Sports from the US bid, Astro, I know from the Asian and Middle East countries, they also bid for the rights and they now share it to other small companies like DSTV, Go TV, Canal Plus, and those things. Why wasn't there a bidding opportunity for other this thing? And we have to now pay broadcasters to broadcast. Oh, that part I didn't get, and I think a lot of people share that sentiment.
Yeah, I think that like after that, because sports rights are very expensive.
Yeah.
If you look at
so why are we paying someone to show the games? Or are the games not that attractive?
And I think that's a good question. And for me, if you look at the African Games and its model, is not a profitable event. If you look at all the countries.
Why is it not being made profitable?
I don't know. I don't work in the PR department of the African Games. I'm not a PR for the AU and their events. But if you look at the module and how the event has been, I think the popularity and how many of us still remember about the Ghanaians, how many of us remember the last host before Ghana?
It was Morocco, but because I'm in the business.
Good. So. But so the average African is the African Games.
So it's something we need to work on.
Good.
Not just sit there and assume that.
Is the average African familiar with the concept of the African Games? Are you guys getting it?
Yeah.
So now, if you're a host country, it's more like solidarity. You are investing in the development of Africa than a revenue-making adventure. So if you look at the games that we watched in Ghana, and we did, if you're a broadcaster, Sahara Football, if they tell you to come and pay $100 to own rights at the African Games, will Sahara Football pay some way? The fact that you are thinking about it, but if they say pay $100 a year or $100 a month for rights at let's say AFCON World Cup,
I'll pay straight.
Good. So
it's not as attractive.
Good, and we can't lie to ourselves. Like we should be honest to ourselves and admit that they are the African Games.
So we need to work on making it attractive.
Good, and that's the question first. But at that time, you are hosting a tournament. It's not be your work, say, and that's what I think the AU, the sports committee.
But we even had an extended period of time. We were supposed to do this in 2023 August. We had the chance to go further to March, and still we couldn't get it.
I think we can't. You see, if you look at the AFCON, for instance, people pay a lot of money for the AFCON. Why? Because of the football part, isn't it? Good. The African Games, the football part is what?
Male and female,
Under 23. Under 23.
Under 20, actually.
Under 20 of Africa. How many people are willing to watch the under 20 version of African football? Like, if you want to break these Olympic Games, what's the most watched event in Olympic Games? Athletics. According to research, even they watch gymnastics more than athletics. So you see, at gymnastics in the America, CBS will pay a lot of money for the Olympic Games because they have top athletes that are competing in the gymnastics, and America watches gymnastics more. So Simon Bills and the likes. So now, what are the top most popular events in the African Games that BBC or GBC or BBC Super Sports,
so that those guys will also be
good?
bid.
So let's ask ourselves these questions that the African Games.
So we have to work on making the Africa Games
good. That is the basics of it. If not, any host country
will have to bear the cost
to pay for the production of the content.
Because if we had made it available
as
and attractive,
because according to
BBC and co would have been bidding for it, and we would be making money, and they'll pay to the government.
Good. And I believe that is what the AU
have to
really work on. Doing everything possible to, because look at Common Games. Common Games is as similar as like the concept
all
of
Africa Games
is as similar as the African Games. Because Commonwealth is
so we have a lot of work to do.
We need to do them things so that it won't be like a burden onto the host nation than a means of commercial events. Because the only benefit that Ghana got from the African Games is the facility that we managed to build,
and hopefully we can maintain.
We'll be able to maintain. That one's have another
problem.
So I think, first of all, sports rights, it is established that sports rights are supposed to be sold.
Yes.
But you are selling. The person buying is not for that Christmas. So you have to
have to benefit from what they are buying.
What they are buying. And we all watch the African Games. Which events would force you as a broadcaster, go and pay? But you, the host nation, because you also want, one, your countrymen to watch the games.
Yeah.
Two, the international bodies to also watch the games that you are competing. Because if you are doing the sports and people know they watch, so now you are forced to produce this content. And if you check the date of the contract they signed, they did it as late as February. And that's like 1 month. 1 month to the competition.
Very poor planning.
So if you go into all these small details, Charlie, that's the challenge.
We mess up. Interesting. So it's been clarified now. The sports ministry and the GBC were all basically saying the same thing. GBC benefited $105,000. It's quite small for a company like the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation.
Give me 1 minute, let me talk about it. See, ideally, if you look at the job the third-party companies did for GBC, and you look at based on the details of the contract, GBC's job was more like a supervisor, and making available a 24-hour channel.
That's all.
Meanwhile, the proper job, which is the creating the content, directing it, shooting, producing the live feed, was done by third parties. What is GBC sitting down doing? And so, for me, that's my worry.
So because GBC is a government institution.
Good. They need to be able to have these resources
readily available.
One of the companies mentioned here, I happens to know one, which is the Silicon. At least the rest there, I'm not familiar with them, but I know Silicon Productions. Silicon Productions is in Ghana, owned by a Ghanaian. Look at the amount of money made. No,
but they are doing what someone is not doing. So you can't be for them.
I'm not just saying that a Ghanaian company is sitting in Ghana
and doing it, and it's able to do it. So why is the government institution not able to do it? That's the question we pose to you guys in government.
GBC had
you are making GBC.
So assuming GBC did the production,
they would have gotten extra
money into their TV.
It's on the government, so it falls on the government's shoulders now, and we hope you understand what is happening right now. So the sports minister actually did pay them in excess of 3 million, but then GBC, because they do not have the resources to deliver what the sports ministry wanted, had to outsource it and pay those they outsourced the contracts to. And they ended up getting only $105,000 in the end. And that is basically it. Why didn't we have other companies bidding for it? My good friend says, because the games are not that attractive to draw a crowd. Because those who bid for it have to benefit something and have to be sure that people subscribe to whatever they are bidding for and watch it so that they can make some returns on it. And it makes sense. So our job now is to make the Africa Games attractive enough to cause a bidding war and to make more money for our country. Let us know your thoughts on this whole issue in the comments box. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.